I think it always appeared from the outside that I did handle pressure really well, but I can tell you there was something completely different going on internally. One thing I do not miss about playing is the anxiety that comes with it. The amount of sleepless nights that I had, knowing that I had to perform or had to do something the next innings to stay in the side, all that sort of thing. I really didn't have anyone that I could really talk to about it. That's probably one of my big regrets.
Welcome to the Influence in Action podcast, where Anton and Melissa Dunbar unpack really important issues around influence with really, really cool humans. Now, today, our amazing guest is Greg Blewett, Gregory Scott Blewett, who was born in 1971, in October 1971 in Adelaide, South Australia. Actually famous as a right-hand batsman, but also bowled a little bit of right-arm medium pace. Greg's a former Australian international cricketer known for his technically sound batting, absolutely. It's very different to 2026. Agility in the field and useful right-arm medium-pace bowling, a product of South Australian cricket and the Australian Institute of Sport. Greg played at the highest level for Australia through the 90s, showcasing early promise with prolific scoring, 2 tons in Greg's first 2 Test matches, 3 tons in Greg's first Ashes series. And memorable performances in both the Test and the one-day formats. Thanks, team. I hope you enjoy our upcoming conversation with the amazing Greg Blewett.
So I just wanted to bring one of my long-term mates, actually, in the cricket world to our chat today, Greg Blewett, who many will know as an Australian cricketer and also now a broadcaster, and he's done a number of things in between. And I'm sure there's a bit of business stuff too, somewhere along the way, Greg. And I certainly know your wife now. She's certainly got a fantastic business that she has set up. So one of the things that we talk about from a business perspective, and Anton and I do quite a bit of work together actually in the AI space, is influence. What it does, what it doesn't, what it means, making sure that it's not something that's all about ego. It's about something that you can use for the positive. So we've just titled our little get-together Influence in Action, and this year hope to have a chat to a bunch of people. And when we were talking about guests, I had just seen a couple of you guys during the Ashes series. So I went, hang on, a couple of them. And I certainly know from a career perspective, just purely from the stories of being involved with you from such an early age and hearing some of those things through to watching your career develop, blossom, being acknowledged at the Adelaide Oval, having a permanent installation with you out the back behind the chapel bar, and not because you spent a lot of time in the chapel bar. It's just That's just where all the famous South Australian cricketers are. But we'll leave that one. We'll park that bit. And I just was interested because I know you as a Sheffield Shield player, but you don't get to be at that level as a starting point without starting from somewhere. So I was just interested in who influenced you in your early days.
Well, it's a very boring answer, to be honest. It's probably my parents. I mean, I've been thinking about it. I recently did a chat to the MCC. I did it just before the AFL Grand Final, and they wanted me to sort of go through my early days and my career, and I've always been one of these people that sort of don't look back too much. I'm sort of more focused on what's coming up, but I had to sort of start thinking about like my early days and what happened and who influenced me and all that sort of thing. And I had just about the perfect upbringing in terms of if you love sport. I grew up in the Barossa Valley, a town called Angaston, which is about an hour north of Adelaide. And I think my parents probably influenced me more than anyone. I mean, I had my heroes. I loved cricket from an early age. So, Rod Marsh, the Chappell brothers, Dennis Lilly, all those classic names. I just grew up watching them on my television. But I think it really was my parents, and my mum in particular, who was beautiful lady. We lost her about 10 years ago, but she was as tough as nails, absolutely as tough as I. Very, very warm, loving lady, and she did absolutely everything for me and my sister. She was, she just ran us around from sporting event to social events. She was just an absolute trooper. But as I said, she was just as tough as nails. And my dad played sport as well, so we were just a really sporty family. But I think more so than anything, they were both very competitive, like competitive beasts, particularly at sport. And I'm the same. Like I've definitely got their DNA in terms of that. So I think the one thing Mum always used to drill into me was, if you're going to do something, do it properly, and don't be a quitter either. Like if you start a season at basketball, table tennis, athletics, whatever, you must complete that season. So I suppose that taught me, to not quit, to sort of get on with it, even through a bit of adversity or something that I didn't quite enjoy. I had to sort of try and find a way of an enjoyable, but also, soldiering on and getting the job done. But probably more so than anything, Melissa, was the fact that I love sport, and so did my parents, and I just loved competing, and that was it.
There's definitely talk about your parents in and around, cricket circles being incredibly supportive and always there, and that's extraordinary. Though I love the fact that she's instilled that discipline into you, but also too, your word is your bond. And it's the only thing that you really got at the end of the day. So if you say you're going to do something, and goodness knows what you might learn along the way through the adversity, right? You just never know.
Yeah. And I'm trying to do the same with my boys as well, who are 9 and 11. And they've, I actually took them to golf the other day, and my older one, who's just turned 11, he got to about we're only playing 9 holes. We got to about the 7th hole and he was having a shocker. Yeah. And he said, I'm done. I'm walking in. I said, no, you're not. You'll be finishing the next couple of holes as well. So, it certainly has been ingrained in me. So I don't know whether the boys are going to like it or not, but they're going to have to finish what they start.
I love it.
Not a bad philosophy in life, Anton.
Yeah, I was just going to say, was there a moment, Greg? You're exactly the same. If you ask me, my 3 idols: Rod Marsh, Dennis Lillee, Greg Chappell.
There you go.
Unbelievable. I've got a baggy green frame from Rod Marsh. Obviously, it's not a real baggy green, but I've got, it's just such those sports people. But was there a moment when how do you get to know? We all want to play for Australia. You've lived our dream, and you're my age. I watched every one of your runs in your first 2 Test centuries, and I was sitting on the couch in WA watching those, and we're all dreaming of being in your spot. What was the moment? How do you go from a young person, mum's driving around playing cricket around South Australia, to representing our country on the big stage?
Yeah, well, I've been reflecting on that as well because of that talk that I did, and with my boys as well. I'll probably keep referencing them because they absolutely love cricket, and that's all they talk about is playing cricket for Australia. But I wasn't like that, Anton, at all. I wasn't. No, I wasn't a dreamer. I really wasn't. All I knew was that I just loved sport, and cricket ended up taking over. But I did it all. Honestly, I did athletics. I played basketball. I played tennis. I played golf. I played AFL footy. And I just loved it all. So it didn't really matter what sport it was. Like riding my bike after school, I'd line up 6 kids by a jump, and I'd, try and jump over them and all that. So I just loved sport. So I didn't injure anyone. I don't think so anyway. But
okay, go collarbone.
Not permanently.
But for me, Anton, I got to the point where even when I came back down to Adelaide and, through my schooling life, I really got into the South Australian or the SACA underage squads. So, under 15s, under 17s, under 19s. But it wasn't really until probably the under 19s where I started thinking about, or actually realizing that I'm actually okay at this sport. And then
could be good enough.
I got into the Australian under 19 team.
Right.
But the biggest breakthrough for me, Anton, was in that team was Damian Martin, who's been in the news recently.
Yeah.
He's had meningitis, and
Yeah.
it was bloody touch and go there for a while, but thank God he's on the mend. But
Yeah.
he was one of those guys that was just so much better than everyone else at that age. And then I got to go on a tour with him to the UK. Again, very lucky that my year that I was in the Australian under-19 team, we toured the UK. But I was also in the Cricket Academy, which was based in Adelaide. So Gilchrist was another one that went on that tour to England as well. But I was then surrounding myself with very, very good players.
Yeah.
And I sort of had the mentality, I'm from Adelaide, you sort of have that sort of small town syndrome. But then I got to live and breathe cricket with these absolute superstars, even at that age. And then I was like, you know what? I'm as good as these guys. I can be, I can match these guys. And then that suddenly reframed how I thought about myself and what then I wanted to achieve. And then I got into the South Australian team and had a reasonable first year.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of people said to me, well, it's the second year that's the hardest because everyone's seen you. They'll work out your weaknesses. And I was like, nah, that's not going to happen to me. I got better in my second year. I got better year on year. And then all of a sudden I'm playing for Australia at the age of 23, 24. And it really happened very, very quickly. But short answer is, as I said, I wasn't a dreamer. I wasn't a 10-year-old lying in bed going, one day I want to play cricket for Australia. It would just happen the fact that I was okay at cricket. I got quite good at it. And then I found myself in the Australian team. And that's it.
Wow.
But that's a classic element in and around, you tell me the 5 people you hang around with, and I'll tell you about yourself. And so if excellence is just the base level, I was talking to Caleb Ewan about this the other day. If excellence is just basic, then you can only go up from there. And so your version of excellence, just by being a little bit younger or maybe not as experienced, you didn't have the opportunity because you're just in that bubble and surrounded by people who they just have an expectation that you're going to be like, if you're going to be as good as me, do. If not, like, you won't be here much longer.
Well, and people talk about who was the biggest influence on my career. And I can honestly say it wasn't a coach. It was my fellow player, Damian Martin, because I just looked at what he did. And at that age, I was like, I want to be as good as him, if not better. And I just had to. And at that age, you can catch up really quickly if you're smart about how you go about it. And I was never better than Damian Martin, don't get me wrong. But just being uniquely close to him and watching him up so close and have that access really progressed the way that I looked at cricket, and my improvement sort of went through the roof after I spent a bit of time with him.
Yeah, how fantastic. And so from there, that also probably established thoughts around yes, once you start playing for Australia, you get to travel the world. But did it start thoughts of you potentially being able to expand your career in England as well? Because you spent a bit of time over there.
Yeah, I did. And I love the UK. I mean, the first time I went over there was with the Australian under-19 team. And then, but then when I came back and I started playing professional cricket, I knew that I had a opportunity to play all year round. And obviously, with our summer in Australia and then our winter in Australia is UK summer. So, it was just the perfect way to be able to earn a good living by playing cricket. And the thing for me too was just trying to bat in different conditions as well and have different responsibilities in different teams. So absolutely, love the UK. The other thing too, Melissa, was I was in the Cricket Academy with Shane Warne as well. So, and you talk about sport and business, then Warnie had this great eye for being able to, he was a pretty shrewd business guy, Warnie.
Yeah.
And so just the way that I was able to see firsthand as well, him establish his brand. He was probably the first guy that I knew really in Australian cricketing circles that really had this brand,
Yes.
probably apart from Anton, maybe like a Dennis Lilly or someone like that, you know, a real iconic figure. But
Yeah.
I saw Warnie really build his brand. And then, but for me, I really wanted to keep it simple early days because
Okay.
I just thought, you know, I just wanted my cricket to do the talking.
Yeah.
And I realised that I'd got off to a pretty hot start in my international career, but I just wanted to really establish myself in the Australian cricket team. And then I thought that if I played good cricket, then
Yeah.
all the good stuff with
There's plenty of time
sponsorships
for
and
that.
that would follow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
there's plenty of time for that. Well, you
Right.
do. You create this sort of inconsequential brand.
Mm.
Again, brands were new back then, and sports people being able to commercialize anything beyond a sponsor wanting you to wear their logo, which again in your sport you couldn't really do. Early days, I mean, I think Commonwealth Bank were a sponsor for decades, so there wasn't the variation, there wasn't the on-field, off-field opportunities to be able to do that. But interesting you say that from that influence of a brand. When did you think that you could start utilizing that outside or off the cricketing field?
Well, I didn't really, you know, like I honestly didn't think I was worthy really of a brand, to be honest. Like I sort of looked at guys like Adam Gilchrist and Shane Warne and these sort of guys that had the more lucrative contracts. In terms of brand, I really just wanted to come across as an authentic guy. I didn't really, you know, you'd heard horror stories about people who had, you know, changed once they got into or got a bit of a profile.
Yeah.
That they didn't really handle it as well as probably what they could have. So, yeah, I honestly, Melissa, I didn't really ever think of myself as a brand. I just wanted to come across as a guy that sort of loved playing cricket and tried to win games of cricket for their team. And then I just wanted to, you know, handle myself well in the media as well, which has gone through the roof now. I mean, social media wasn't a thing
Correct.
when I was playing cricket. So that's a completely different beast now. So I'm probably more aware of my brand now than I ever was as a cricketer.
Yeah.
And in saying that, Greg, what does that mean to you? Like, as someone who is aware of their brand and understands the importance of social media and understands that there are kids out there that idolise you, that you know, there's adults out there that still idolise you. And, you know, what's it mean to be a public figure, I guess, with a level of influence that whether you choose to use that wisely or not, but what does that mean for you as a public figure?
Yeah, it sits a lot more comfortably with me now. I really enjoy it. I must admit, when I was playing, I was under pressure a lot because we had so much depth in our batting, Anton,
Right.
and I can tell that you know a lot about your cricket, as Melissa does as well. So
Absolutely.
when I was playing cricket for Australia, a lot of the time I was under the pump to keep my place in the side. So I felt like a lot of the time, you know, in and around training, you know, signing autographs and all that sort of stuff. And as much as you want to do the right thing, there's always you're always going to leave a kid sort of that you didn't see, and that always didn't sit well with me. Whereas now I don't sign anywhere near as many autographs, but I really enjoy the conversations now with people that sort of, you know, like my career or like the style that I played in. And I love spending time with kids as well now, especially, you know, the ages that my kids are as well, and being around junior cricket circles. And I fully realise that I do have a great opportunity to, you know, make a bit of a difference in people's lives or careers just by it could be just something really simple that you say. So I really enjoy that element now much more than I did when I was playing, because as I said, I was so focused on trying to do well that I sort of, and naturally I'm quite shy anyway. Like I'd much prefer probably spending time on my own in a room compared to walking into a room with 100 people and then you don't know anyone and you have to, go and meet everyone and that. I'm not as comfortable as others in that sort of environment. I mean, I used to hate going to, when we toured, we used to go to embassy functions and
our sponsors dinner.
all that. I'm not naturally one of those people that just enjoy those conversations, but I'd like to think I've got a little bit better at it over the years.
Well, I have to say, back in the day, and this was before lots of sports, was probably showing our age, but before lots of professional sports had additional support and training for players and athletes. I do remember that year I did an etiquette class for you guys. I did a what do you do at the dinner table with all the knives and forks and the glasses and, all of those sorts of things. I'm sure we did nutrition with Tony, in the kitchen, so that you could all go and feed yourselves. Doing a little bit better as professional athletes that you guys were becoming. But it is true because you do have to transfer and people just think that it's pretty straightforward. He's brilliant in his craft, whatever that craft might be. For you, it's cricket. So they just expect you to be able to turn yourself to any environment or any set of circumstances and be just as, brilliant. Where those sorts of things, they're a different kind of skill, which probably helps transition to that observation you've just made about yourself. I'd probably acknowledge that because you went from playing, you said, to broadcasting first. And those early days of broadcasting versus that sense of complete comfort you look like you have now in the chair, you started another challenge. I mean, you can play the game, you can talk about the game with your mates, but when you've got to actually tell stories and keep people engaged and entertained, you stepped into another arena. So there must have been a Damien Martin of the broadcasting world that, was a supporting influence somewhere.
Yeah, well, Mel, I started my career in the UK with Sky Sports. So I was over there playing cricket still, and Australia were playing, I'm thinking it was Bangladesh or someone like that in the top end. And the games were in the UK, were in the middle of the night. So I'm playing county cricket, but also doing broadcasting for the rest of the night, basically living off about 2 hours sleep.
Yeah.
And then, so that's how I started. I was still playing, and then I finished my career, and then Sky asked me to come over and work on the 2005 Ashes tour, which was like one of the best series ever. So I couldn't have got the timing any better. But I really look at I look at my career now as a broadcaster, and I really have sort of feels like I've split my life into two halves. So I have my playing career, so I've parked that, and now I'm into my broadcasting career. And like my cricket, all I want to do is try and get better and better every single day at sort of whatever I'm doing. And now it's broadcasting. So, but the only thing I'll say is that there's no course that commentators do. You're just bloody thrown into the deep end. Like I remember, walking into the commentary box going, what do I do? Is someone going to tell me how this works? Like, you've got your control panels in front of you. I'm looking at the roster and I'm going, shit, I'm on in half an hour. No one's told me what to do. But look, I just asked as many questions as I could, while I was there. And everyone in the industry that I've worked with has been great. I haven't had anyone say, oh, mate, come on, you'll work it out. Everyone's just been great about, sharing their experiences when they started and just, little tips along the way. But yeah, it was bloody daunting. I mean, that was probably as nervous as I've ever been. And that includes Test match debut.
Right.
And talking about that, Melissa, let's unpack this pressure piece that Greg's just mentioned, and I guess the pressure of the platform. And Melissa and I both work with leaders, Greg, and we do public speaking. And my work, a lot of my work over the last couple of years has been leadership under pressure, and how to help leaders deal with the pressure of crisis events, for example. But for you, it was a different type of pressure. Facing a quick, that's a different type of pressure. Being in the commentary box for the first time with seasoned commentators, where you feel probably an inferiority complex, different type of pressure. Are you someone that handled pressure well naturally, or is this a skill you've learnt, mate, to, just to be stoic?
I'm so much better at it now. I mean, I wish I knew what I do now when I played cricket. Look, I think it always appeared from the outside that I did handle pressure really well, but I can tell you there was something completely different going on internally.
Good.
One thing I do not miss about playing is the anxiety that comes with it. I mean, the amount of sleepless nights that I had, knowing that I had to perform or had to do something the next innings to stay in the side, all that sort of thing. So, look, I think I handled it the best I probably could at the time, but I really didn't have anyone that I could really talk to about it. That's probably one of my big regrets. And if my boys are ever any good at sport, or they do have nervousness in and around business, whatever that is, I'm going to make sure that they have the proper support there, because it wasn't probably the lack of, people being around me. It was probably more myself, that I didn't go and seek someone that I could really trust and talk to about it. So, because we did have sport psychs around, but I just didn't find one that I naturally gravitated towards. So, but yeah, Anton, mate, I had so many. Yeah, just those horrible nights, just tossing and turning. And I'm sure a lot of people do, like they know that they've got a public speaking gig, in a week's time, and you've got a week of prep to do it. And then the night before, the anxiety around that presentation or whatever is very real. So I get it, but I bloody don't miss it. I can guarantee you.
Mate, hey, thanks for sharing. That's such a great answer, because a lot of people probably wouldn't know. They probably get it when you say I've spent sleepless nights with anxiety, but most people, to pull the curtain back like that and to know that it really is probably difficult and nearly debilitating to a degree, that that you won't let your kids go through that. So thank you for that. That was a great answer.
There are there's a number of sports people over time. Glenn Archer was obviously a AFL great for the Kangaroos for North Melbourne, and I remember him. I did a bit of work with him and Ricky Ponting in Stride when Punter was available in that agency, and he used to talk about all the time, like really dressing room the before he was going out to play. That anxiety, that overwhelm, he's got some days he's vomiting before he's getting out onto the field. Okay, once he got across the line, but that whatever it is, which I think is a combination between not having enough knowledge or language around how other people are perceiving you, but also to somewhere between your expectations of yourself of wanting to perform with excellence, because that that's your capability. And we all have that sort of negative Nancy, or that doubter that sits on our shoulder that sort of says, you're getting to the end of this, or if you don't do that, these are the consequences, instead of going out and doing what you know how to do.
100%.
And again, they're just learned skills, they're learned language, all of those things. And I think it's one of the questions to finish up on is that we like to ask is really, what would you talk to your younger self about? And of course, you've got a much older daughter that you've been able to raise as well, and now you've got the two younger boys where, again, you're a young dad, right? So you didn't have that sort of skill or knowledge necessarily in around that set of circumstances, and now you've got that experience through, and you can nurture your boys differently by sharing maybe what you would say to your younger self. So if you could, there's the kid that, made a considerable amount of runs early in the inter-school competitions, like all of that sort of stuff. People who have been aware or exposed to your career almost at every stage, you've been a bit of a shining light, but then you had to get into the next ring, and that was bigger. And then you got to the next ring, and that was bigger. And they were better once you keep climbing the ladder. And it's really sometimes easy for, it doesn't matter sports people or professionals, but you can be incredibly good, under 10s, under 18s, under 21s, then you get out into professional land, and it's not just about your skill. It is about the pressure. It's about being more than just a player. You also, then you become a brand, then you become, you're a commodity in some ways. Your people look up to you as a role model. You get to take on all these things just because you are good at a set of skills, right? So is there something that you could turn around and say, pick an age, doesn't matter. It might be, when you first played for Australia. It might be when you're, playing for Kensington Browns, whatever. Pick an age. What would you say to your younger self?
Yeah, I'd probably say to someone, like if I go back to when I was, I think probably a little bit later on, around about 18, 19. And it really does for me all go back to exactly what you were talking about, Melissa, with the just the positive self-talk, and you referenced Ricky Ponting, who got very good at it. And I'm sure he had all the insecurities that I had as well. But he speaks about being able to, not take your mind to where, the what ifs, what if I fail the next time I bat? It was more, he turned that around into, okay, what do I got to do tomorrow? What do I do well? How am I going to tackle this bowler? What am I? And it was more of that really positive self-talk. Whereas I would love to tell myself to do the due diligence and find a way of finding some techniques into, reversing some of those negative thoughts and turning them into more of a powerful way of thinking about how you're going to tackle that next big task that you've got ahead of you. So, and that's why I was talking about, that may be a mentor, that may be, some stuff that you find online that really works for you. It might be meditation. It might be, there's so many different ways that you can find ways of sort of, reversing those negative thoughts. But I tell myself that you just have to do it. You might not enjoy the process, but the benefits that you get from doing it will, far outweigh, the 2 weeks, the 2 months, the year, whatever it takes for you to be able to find a really good way to get through those tough little scenarios. That would be a non-negotiable that I'd make myself do.
Well, that sounds very much like a set of lessons that your mother was trying to teach you back in the day, right? Giving you that grounding.
I wasn't a good listener sometimes, Melissa, you know that.
Oh, really?
Little stubborn bastard.
Well, at the end of the day, she might have just been planting the seeds, and yes, you got the DNA, but some of those early lessons, it's again, it's about a language that you've been able to learn how to use better, I suppose. Anton, have you got anything further?
Look, not really, Melissa. I was nearly going to ask Greg, who does he influence now from an influence perspective, but I think probably kids would be the big ones. I think Greg's, young boys, fathers of boys. It's a big deal raising boys. So I probably get that, Greg, just how important that is as a father.
Yeah.
Do you coach the kids?
Well, I do as much as I can. I'm with my broadcasting career. I can't take on the head coaching role because I'm not at half the game. So, but certainly when I'm around, I'm sort of always interacting with the coaches and the players and sort of helping out as much as I can. Like, I don't also want to be one of those guys that sort of is stepping on the coach's toes too much either. So trying to find that nice balance. But yeah, it's definitely a sort of a, and you reference my daughter, who's now 25, lives in Sydney, beautiful young lady. But I wasn't around a lot, so I've certainly, the way that my career is sort of, especially the last 10 years, I've made a real conscious effort to be home a lot more. And I just love it. I'm so, so happy with being around my boys and being a big part of their lives. So I'm in a really cool spot, which is great.
If Melissa, very quickly, it would be a very tough job coaching Greg Blewett's kids in a cricket. That would come with enormous.
But go on.
My kids are exactly the same. I'm sure any dad will have a similar sort of story, but we got my eldest some private coaching lessons last winter. And every time he'd come home and he'd go, Dad, he told me this and he told me, and I'd go, that's pretty much exactly what I've been telling you, mate. But but when it's coming from Dad, right?
No,
it doesn't sink in. So, and I'm sure everyone's got those stories.
Yeah, 100%. Your only dad. What would you know? But
Dad.
Look, I've heard plenty of stories about Darren and Jake too, where he's happy to sort of drop him in the deep end and go, mate, you're going to have to do it yourself. I can't be out there with you. So we didn't ask one question. We didn't ask actually, because this is where you had a successful career, but you also then during Darren Lehman's coaching tenure, he brought you in as a specialist, and so you were there to influence anyone that was in the team or the squad in your specialty being fielding. Interesting, he didn't ask you to come and be a batting coach. Did you ever ask why?
No, I didn't. But it was a bloody unique opportunity, Melissa. Yeah. So I was happy in the broadcasting space, and then I was actually in the UK when Darren got the job, which sort of seemed like, to me, sort of came out of nowhere when Mickey Arthur got the sack. And then Darren came in, but then I got a message from Darren saying, mate, let's catch up for a beer, which wasn't anything unusual. Yeah. And then it was over the beer that he said, mate, I want you to come on board and be the fielding coach. And I'd sort of thought about maybe dabbling in coaching, but then I thought, I said, mate, I'm very interested. Let me have a bit of a think about it. And the more I thought about it was, who gets the opportunity to start their coaching career with the Australian cricket team?
Yeah,
it wasn't like I'd sort of started coaching for South Australia and then moved so I just thought this is too good an opportunity to let go. So I thoroughly enjoyed the 3 years, but then we had our second son, and being on the road with 2 babies was just too hard. And then I came back to South Australia and explored some more coaching, but then just from a career point of view, it just didn't make any sense with, coaching. You've got to be adaptable and be able to move families around either Australia or overseas. And I just wasn't prepared to do that. So I slipped back into broadcasting.
Sure.
Well, it's been, you're only halfway through life, so that's lucky. But so far at the halfway point, and again, you have the opportunity. Parents are extraordinary humans, where the more they can give their kids by, it's about time that they spend with you and being the best Uber drivers, and then being able to get the right, opportunities are only opportunities if you can take them. So you've got to be able to see them. You've got to be able to deliver. You've been able to do that from school through to, your under-19s, AIS, Australia, playing internationally all over the world, and being able to step out into, different skills, aligned industries, but certainly that. So I'm sure your parents would be very proud of you, and I would have told you that many, many times. I know they're not here to enjoy it anymore, but your kids certainly in a very fortunate place, just having Dad who just knows all this stuff and can continue that on. So Anton and I both thank you for coming and spending a bit of time with us today.
Pleasure.
Talking about influence in action. Have a great day.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks guys. All right.
Thanks,
see you guys.
See you,
Bye.
team.
See ya. Bye.